The human fascination with the unknown is timeless. Whether through myths, legends, or the modern-day pursuit of extraterrestrial life, there's an innate desire to look beyond the horizon and ask, are we truly alone in the universe? In the vast expanse of the cosmos, we often find ourselves dwarfed by the enormity of space. Yet a persistent curiosity has driven us to look upward, to ponder, to wonder. Among the most captivating mysteries that have captivated human imagination is the phenomenon of UFOs, or unidentified flying objects. These strange sightings in the sky have ignited a combination of wonder, fear, and a quest for answers, prompting countless theories about the nature of life beyond Earth. UFO sightings are not a recent development. The phenomenon spans back centuries, but it wasn't until the mid-20th century that it truly gained widespread attention. The period following World War II marked a new era of uncertainty in the world, shaped by the Cold War and an increasing reliance on technology in warfare. With the technological advancements of the time, many military officials and civilians began reporting strange objects flying in the skies, objects that defied conventional explanations. Some dismissed them as weather phenomena or misidentified aircraft, while others were convinced they were witnessing something otherworldly. The mysteries of the skies began to take shape, and as a result, UFOs became intertwined with the fabric of modern history, creating a lasting enigma that has intrigued generations. But what if these strange sightings weren't merely the product of overactive imaginations or mistaken observations? What if there was, in fact, something to these encounters? And more importantly, why did certain governments, including the United States, choose to keep information about UFOs under tight wraps for decades? What was it that they were hiding, and why? These questions, among others, lie at the heart of the incredible story we are about to embark on, one that explores the declassified UFO files of the CIA. In 2017, the New York Times published an explosive report revealing that the Pentagon had run a covert program, known as the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, ATIP, tasked with investigating UFO sightings. This disclosure, though shocking, was just the tip of the iceberg. While many believed that UFOs were relegated to the realm of fringe theories and sensational stories, the CIA's declassified documents opened a new chapter of transparency, revealing not only the government's involvement in UFO investigations, but also how much was hidden from the public for years. For decades, UFOs were dismissed by the mainstream media, with many in positions of authority labeling them as the product of hysteria or hoaxes. The government, in turn, often downplayed the significance of these sightings, fearing the panic that would ensue if the truth were ever fully revealed. Yet, as the years went by and more credible reports surfaced, it became increasingly difficult to ignore the reality of the phenomenon. Even the most skeptical among us had to acknowledge that something unexplained was happening in the skies. It's easy to dismiss UFO sightings as mere conspiracy theories or the fanciful dreams of those who seek to believe in something beyond the ordinary. But when the CIA, an organization known for its careful control of information, releases classified documents to the public, it signals that there is something worth investigating, something that cannot simply be ignored. The declassification of these files marked a pivotal moment in the long-standing mystery of UFOs, providing rare glimpses into how governments have handled the subject over the decades. And as these documents were revealed, they forced the public to confront some unsettling questions. What exactly did the government know? And for how long? Were these objects truly of extraterrestrial origin? Or was there a more terrestrial explanation for the phenomena? And perhaps most intriguingly, what did these revelations say about the nature of truth, secrecy, and the relationship between the public and the government? The purpose of this journey is not merely to recount the details of declassified documents, but to understand the broader implications of what these files reveal. As we explore these documents, we will uncover the stories of military personnel, civilians, and government officials who have had encounters with the unknown. Through the lens of official records, we will examine the historical context in which these encounters took place and how the narrative of UFOs evolved over time. We will explore the psychological and cultural factors that have influenced how these stories are told, and how the public's perception of UFOs has changed from the early days of ridicule to the serious, scientific inquiries of today. But in addition to the facts, this journey will also delve into the realm of mystery. There's something inherently alluring about the unknown, and UFOs tap into that allure in a way that few other phenomena can. The questions surrounding UFOs transcend mere scientific curiosity. They tap into our collective imagination and our deep-seated need to understand our place in the universe. If UFOs are indeed of extraterrestrial origin, what does that mean for humanity? What implications would this have for our understanding of science, philosophy, and our very existence? As we dive deeper into the CIA's declassified UFO files, we will encounter a blend of factual accounts, eyewitness testimonies, and classified documents. Each piece of evidence adds another layer to the mystery, creating a puzzle that, despite decades of investigation, remains unsolved. Some reports describe strange objects that seem to defy the laws of physics, while others tell of encounters that seem almost too bizarre to be true. And yet, when pieced together, these accounts form a compelling narrative, one that challenges our understanding of the world and forces us to reconsider the boundaries of what is possible. We will also explore the conflicting theories that have emerged over the years. Some believe that UFOs are indeed extraterrestrial spacecraft, visiting our planet from distant stars or even other dimensions. Others argue that these sightings are the result of secret military projects, advanced technology developed in the shadows of government research. And then there are those who contend that UFOs are manifestations of something more paranormal in nature, perhaps linked to consciousness or otherworldly dimensions. Each of these theories adds depth to the conversation and offers a unique perspective on the mystery. Ultimately, what we uncover in these declassified files is not just a series of events or documents, but a reflection of our collective psyche. Our fascination with UFOs speaks to our desire for something beyond the mundane, a longing to break free from the confines of our earthly existence and explore the cosmos. It is this deep-seated yearning for discovery and understanding that makes the UFO phenomenon so compelling and so elusive. As we embark on this journey together, we will not only uncover the facts hidden within the CIA's declassified documents, but also allow ourselves to reflect on the nature of mystery itself. What makes something mysterious? Why are we so drawn to the unknown? And what does that reveal about us as human beings? And as we explore these questions, we invite you to come along for the ride, to feel both the intrigue and the relaxation that accompanies the pursuit of truth. In the end, whether or not we ever find the definitive answers to the UFO enigma may not be as important as the journey itself. The journey into the unknown, where the lines between reality and imagination blur, and where the mysteries of the universe unfold before us like an endless sky, stretching far beyond what we can see. The human fascination with the unknown has been a driving force behind the exploration of UFOs and extraterrestrial life for centuries. From ancient civilizations to modern-day researchers, the mystery of what lies beyond our planet has captivated our collective imagination. Yet, while reports of strange aerial phenomena can be found throughout history, the modern UFO phenomenon truly began to take shape in the mid-20th century, driven by a combination of technological advancements, geopolitical tensions, and a growing sense of unease about what might lie beyond the stars. It is essential to understand that UFO sightings are not a product of the modern age alone. Throughout history, there have been numerous accounts of unusual objects in the sky that defied explanation. In ancient times, these sightings were often interpreted as omens or divine manifestations. The Romans, Greeks, and Egyptians all recorded strange occurrences in the heavens, with some ancient texts describing flying shields or chariots of fire that moved across the sky. These early reports were largely viewed through a religious or mythological lens, and the concept of alien life as we understand it today did not yet exist. However, these stories point to a long-standing human curiosity about the skies and a recognition that there may be more to the heavens than meets the eye. The real shift in how UFOs were perceived came in the 20th century. The end of World War II brought about significant changes in both technology and geopolitics. The development of the jet engine and the widespread use of radar created new ways of detecting objects in the sky, while the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union added an element of heightened tension and fear. It was during this period of global uncertainty that the modern UFO phenomenon began to gain traction. The Roswell incident, which occurred in 1947, is often seen as the pivotal event that launched the modern era of UFO sightings and government secrecy. In July of that year, something crashed near Roswell, New Mexico, something that, according to the military, was a weather balloon. However, the local press and many eyewitnesses reported that the wreckage was unlike anything they had ever seen before, and some speculated that it might have been an extraterrestrial craft. The U.S. military quickly retracted their initial announcement, leading to even more confusion and speculation about the true nature of the incident. This reversal sparked widespread public interest in UFOs and fueled conspiracy theories that the government was hiding the truth about alien life. Over the following years, UFO sightings continued to be reported across the globe, often accompanied by official denials or explanations that seemed to leave more questions than answers. The 1950s and 1960s saw a surge of UFO sightings, including the famous sightings over Washington, D.C. in 1952. In this instance, radar operators at Washington National Airport detected several unidentified objects in the sky, and military aircraft were dispatched to intercept them. However, the objects reportedly moved in ways that defied conventional aerodynamics, prompting widespread speculation about their origin. In the years that followed, similar sightings occurred worldwide, from the deserts of Arizona to the hills of Scotland, with many people reporting strange lights or craft moving in unusual patterns. At the same time, UFOs began to take on a larger cultural significance. In the United States, the post-war years were marked by a growing sense of anxiety, driven in part by the nuclear arms race and the fear of Soviet espionage. As the Cold War tensions deepened, UFOs were often portrayed as a potential threat, perhaps even a weapon developed by a foreign power. The U.S. government, sensing the potential panic that widespread UFO belief could cause, began to take a more active role in investigating these sightings. Project Blue Book, established by the U.S. Air Force in 1952, was the first official government program dedicated to the study of UFOs. The project sought to investigate sightings and determine whether any of them posed a threat to national security. For many years, Project Blue Book worked under the assumption that most UFO sightings could be explained by natural phenomena, misidentified aircraft, or other earthly causes. However, as more and more sightings were reported, it became clear that there were a significant number of encounters that defied conventional explanation. The project, which continued until 1969, ultimately concluded that while some UFOs could not be easily explained, they did not present a threat to national security. Yet, the government's official stance did little to quell public fascination with UFOs, and it only fueled suspicions that there was more to the story than the public was being told. By the 1970s and 1980s, UFOs had firmly established themselves as a part of mainstream culture. Books, television shows, and movies began to explore the possibility of alien life, and the public's interest in the subject grew even more. One of the most famous and influential works to come out of this period was the 1977 book Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Däniken, which proposed the controversial idea that ancient civilizations had been visited by extraterrestrial beings. This idea, which became known as the ancient astronaut theory, suggested that aliens had not only visited Earth in the past, but may have played a role in shaping human history and development. While the ancient astronaut theory remains controversial to this day, it served to further embed the idea of extraterrestrial visitors into the cultural consciousness. Despite the growing cultural interest in UFOs, the government continued to downplay the phenomenon. In the 1990s, however, a new wave of public interest was sparked by the release of previously classified documents, including the infamous MJ-12 papers, which allegedly outlined a secret government program to study extraterrestrial technology recovered from crashed UFOs. The authenticity of these documents remains a subject of debate, but they added fuel to the fire of conspiracy theories about a cover-up surrounding UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Then, in 2007, came a revelation that would change the landscape of UFO investigations. The Pentagon confirmed the existence of the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, ADIP, a secret initiative that had been studying UFO sightings for several years. The revelation was groundbreaking because it suggested that the U.S. government had been actively investigating the UFO phenomenon, rather than dismissing it as a hoax or conspiracy. The release of videos showing U.S. Navy pilots encountering unexplained flying objects further heightened the mystery, as the footage seemed to show objects moving in ways that defied the laws of physics. This disclosure marked the beginning of a new era of openness regarding UFOs, and it set the stage for the declassification of documents that would soon follow. The history of UFOs, from their ancient roots to their place in modern culture, has been shaped by a combination of scientific curiosity, cultural influence, and government secrecy. For decades, the question of whether we are alone in the universe was treated as a fringe topic, relegated to the realm of science fiction. But as more sightings were reported and more documents were declassified, it became increasingly clear that the phenomenon was far more complex than previously thought. The release of these documents, including those by the CIA, has opened a new chapter in the story of UFOs, one that invites us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about extraterrestrial life, government transparency, and the mysteries of the universe. As we look back at the history of UFO sightings, it's clear that the phenomenon is not just a modern obsession, but a part of humanity's long-standing desire to understand the unknown. Whether the truth is hidden in government files, ancient texts, or the unexplained events of today, the search for answers continues. And with each new sighting, each new declassified document, we move one step closer to uncovering the mysteries of the skies, mysteries that may have been there all along, waiting to be discovered. The Cold War, with its global tensions, technological advancements, and fear of espionage, created a perfect storm for the rise of UFO investigations. As the United States and the Soviet Union faced off in an arms race and ideological struggle, the skies above both nations became a battleground for more than just military dominance. UFOs, once a fringe phenomenon, quickly gained prominence as the U.S. government sought to understand what was happening in its airspace and whether it was a national security threat. The United States government had long been involved in investigating unusual aerial phenomena, but it wasn't until the 1940s, with the onset of the Cold War, that these investigations took on a more structured and secretive nature. World War II had already led to rapid advancements in military technology, with radar and other detection systems being refined during the conflict. The advent of these technologies coincided with a surge in reports of strange objects in the sky. While many of these reports were dismissed as simple misidentifications, balloons, meteorological phenomena, or weather anomalies, others seemed to defy conventional explanation. In the summer of 1947, the Roswell incident would become the flashpoint that thrust UFOs into the public eye. Something crashed in the desert near Roswell, New Mexico, and while the military initially reported that it was a flying disc, the statement was quickly retracted, and the official explanation became that it was merely a weather balloon. Yet, eyewitnesses described the debris as something unlike any known military technology, leading to widespread speculation that the military was hiding the true nature of the crash, perhaps even an extraterrestrial spacecraft. While the incident would later be officially dismissed by the U.S. government, it laid the groundwork for growing public interest in UFOs and the notion that something was being concealed. As UFO sightings increased across the United States in the late 1940s and early 1950s, the U.S. military began to take the issue more seriously. It became clear that some UFOs were not simple misidentifications. Some of these reports, particularly those from credible military personnel and radar operators, involved objects displaying flight characteristics far beyond the capabilities of any known aircraft. These sightings seemed to suggest that there was something, perhaps from beyond Earth, operating with a technology far more advanced than anything the United States or its adversaries possessed. In 1949, the U.S. Air Force established Project Sign, one of the first official efforts to investigate UFOs. The project's goal was to determine whether UFOs posed any potential threat to national security. However, the report produced by Project Sign reached an unsettling conclusion. The objects being observed appeared to be craft of unknown origin, exhibiting flight patterns that defied the known principles of aerodynamics. The report's findings were highly classified and would never be publicly released, but the very existence of such a study signaled that the U.S. government was taking UFOs seriously. Project Sign was followed by Project Grudge, which was initiated in 1949 as an attempt to disprove the findings of Project Sign and downplay the UFO phenomenon. The project was designed to categorize UFO sightings as either misidentifications of known objects or hoaxes. However, despite the project's skepticism, reports continued to pour in from military personnel and civilians alike. The military's efforts to dismiss UFOs as non-threatening began to wear thin as the number of unexplained sightings continued to grow. In 1952, the U.S. Air Force launched Project Blue Book, which would become the most well-known and longest-running government investigation into UFOs. Project Blue Book was led by Dr. J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer and professor at Northwestern University, who was initially skeptical about UFOs but became increasingly convinced that many of the sightings could not be explained by conventional means. Over the course of 17 years, Blue Book investigated over 12,000 UFO reports with the goal of determining whether UFOs posed a threat to national security and to scientifically study the phenomenon. The existence of these projects, particularly the highly classified nature of their findings, was kept largely secret. The general public was told that UFOs were being investigated, but they were also repeatedly assured that they posed no threat. However, the reality was far more complex. The U.S. government and military were quietly engaging in a much more detailed investigation, which was not just limited to UFO sightings, but also extended to examining the possibility that these objects might have come from foreign powers, or even from extraterrestrial civilizations. One of the most significant developments in the UFO investigation came in 1954 when the CIA officially became involved in UFO research. At this point, the government realized that UFO sightings were no longer confined to isolated incidents or fringe groups. They were becoming a global issue that could potentially affect national security. The CIA recognized the need to gain control over the narrative surrounding UFOs, to investigate sightings from a national security perspective, and to ensure that the American public did not panic. By the mid-1950s, the CIA had set up a series of classified investigations, which would later be revealed to the public through the declassification of government documents. These investigations, while primarily focused on national security concerns, also considered the possibility that UFOs might be the product of Soviet or other foreign powers developing advanced technology. During the height of the Cold War, the idea that UFOs could be a weapon or an intelligence-gathering tool developed by the Soviet Union was a concern that weighed heavily on American military minds. As such, a significant portion of the CIA's investigation into UFOs was aimed at determining whether the sightings represented a threat from foreign adversaries. However, as the CIA began to delve deeper into UFO investigations, another question emerged. Were these objects merely the product of earthly powers, or could they be something else entirely? The possibility that UFOs might represent an alien presence on Earth was never far from the minds of some military officials and researchers. This led to increased interest in the psychological and sociological aspects of UFO sightings. What did it mean for individuals, particularly military personnel, to report seeing objects that appeared to defy the known laws of physics? And why, despite these reports, was the government so eager to suppress or discredit these encounters? Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, the CIA continued to work behind the scenes to investigate UFOs, relying on its vast network of intelligence and surveillance tools. The agency was also involved in monitoring public opinion and managing the information that was being released to the press. As sightings continued to rise, the CIA realized that they could not simply dismiss the phenomenon outright. Instead, they adopted a strategy of carefully controlling the narrative, keeping the public on edge about UFOs while avoiding a full disclosure of what might be truly happening in the skies. During this period, the CIA also explored the possibility that UFOs might be linked to new forms of technology or even psychological warfare. The idea that UFO sightings could be part of a larger psychological operation designed to influence public perception or manipulate individuals was not outside the realm of possibility. In fact, many of the early UFO investigations were designed not just to investigate physical phenomena, but also to understand the psychological impact of such sightings on the general public. The declassified CIA documents that have been released to the public over the years have shed light on the agency's secret involvement in UFO investigations. These documents reveal that the CIA was deeply concerned about the potential implications of UFO sightings, both for national security and for public trust in the government. While the official line has always been that UFOs posed no threat, the reality was that the CIA was deeply invested in understanding the true nature of these encounters, whatever they might be. As we now know, many of the documents released by the CIA have sparked more questions than answers. Despite the agency's efforts to control the flow of information, the truth about UFOs remains elusive. What did the CIA truly uncover during its investigations? What did the government know, and why did it choose to keep certain aspects of the phenomenon classified for so long? These are questions that continue to intrigue researchers, conspiracy theorists, and the general public alike. In conclusion, the birth of the CIA's UFO investigations represents a crucial turning point in the history of the UFO phenomenon. The secrecy, the careful control of information, and the growing body of evidence all point to a phenomenon that was far more complex than initially imagined. While the CIA's investigations may have been initially motivated by national security concerns, they also opened the door to deeper questions about the nature of the universe, the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and the very fabric of reality itself. As we continue to explore the documents and evidence that have emerged from these investigations, we are left to wonder just how much the government truly knows, and how much it has yet to reveal. The most compelling aspect of the UFO phenomenon often lies not in the government documents or military reports, but in the first-hand accounts of ordinary people who have witnessed strange phenomena in the skies. These eyewitnesses, ranging from civilians to trained military personnel, are often the ones who find themselves thrust into a world of mystery and disbelief, where their experiences either align with or challenge official narratives. While the government's stance on UFOs may have been one of skepticism or secrecy, the accounts of those who claim to have seen UFOs tell a story that is rich in personal emotion, psychological complexity, and sometimes profound mystery. Eyewitness testimony has always been at the heart of UFO lore, with countless individuals across the world coming forward to share their encounters with the unexplained. From rural farmers to high-ranking military officers, these reports consistently describe objects in the sky that defy conventional explanations. These experiences are as varied as the witnesses themselves. Some report seeing bright lights hovering in the sky. Others describe massive craft that appear to defy the laws of physics. And some even claim to have had close encounters with extraterrestrial beings. While not all these accounts are easily verifiable, many share striking similarities, raising questions about the nature of the phenomenon. One of the most famous and well-documented cases of UFO sightings comes from the 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident. That year, multiple UFOs were tracked by radar over the nation's capital, and the U.S. Air Force scrambled fighter jets to intercept them. Witnesses, including military personnel and civilians, reported seeing objects that moved at incredible speeds and changed direction, with seemingly no regard for the laws of physics. These sightings, which were widely covered in the media at the time, raised significant questions about what was happening in the skies above Washington, D.C., and why the military was unable to identify or intercept the craft. Eyewitnesses to these events were left to grapple with their own perceptions of what they had seen. In many cases, these individuals were not prepared for the emotional and psychological impact of encountering something so bizarre and inexplicable. The pressure to explain these phenomena within the confines of known science often led to confusion, and sometimes to feelings of isolation. Military personnel, in particular, were reluctant to speak out for fear of ridicule or professional repercussions. These tensions were compounded by the fact that the U.S. government's official position on UFOs was one of dismissiveness or complete denial. In some cases, eyewitness accounts were ignored or dismissed outright, contributing to a sense of frustration among those who had experienced something they felt the world was unwilling to acknowledge. The psychological impact of witnessing a UFO is an area that has been explored by both scientists and researchers. Many of the individuals who have reported UFO sightings describe experiencing a range of emotional responses, from fear and awe to confusion and curiosity. Some witnesses even report long-term psychological effects, such as nightmares, anxiety, or feelings of being watched. In some cases, individuals who claim to have had close encounters report changes in their lives, including altered perceptions of reality, heightened sensitivity to the supernatural, or a deeper sense of purpose. These experiences are not easily explained and remain one of the more mysterious aspects of the UFO phenomenon. One particularly notable case is the story of Betty and Barney Hill, a couple from New Hampshire who became famous after claiming to have been abducted by extraterrestrials in 1961. Their account, which is one of the earliest and most widely studied abduction narratives, has been the subject of intense scrutiny and has inspired countless other similar stories of alien encounters. According to the Hills, they were driving home one night when they saw a large, bright object in the sky. The object appeared to follow them, and eventually, they experienced a period of missing time. After undergoing hypnosis, the Hills revealed vivid memories of being taken aboard a spacecraft and examined by beings that they described as having large eyes and a humanoid appearance. The Hill case is often cited as one of the first instances in which an alien abduction narrative entered the public consciousness, and it set the stage for a wave of similar reports in the following decades. While some skeptics dismiss the Hills' experience as a product of imagination or psychological trauma, their account remains one of the most well-known and widely discussed UFO encounters in history. The emotional and psychological toll that such an experience can take on the individuals involved is undeniable. For many of those who have had similar experiences, the consequences are not simply a matter of puzzling over what they saw, but of reconciling the experience with their understanding of reality. In many cases, the witnesses find themselves at odds with society's prevailing beliefs, where rationality and science often clash with the unexplainable. This conflict can lead to a sense of alienation and confusion that persists long after the initial sighting. In addition to the psychological aspects, eyewitness accounts also reveal much about the social and cultural context in which they occur. For example, many of the early UFO sightings in the 1940s and 1950s took place in rural areas, where the community was less likely to be influenced by urban skepticism or media portrayals of UFOs as hoaxes. Witnesses in these areas often had no reason to doubt their own perceptions and were more likely to report what they had seen without the fear of being ridiculed. In contrast, individuals in more urban settings, where skepticism about UFOs was more widespread, were often hesitant to come forward with their experiences. This contrast between rural and urban experiences highlights the role of cultural context in shaping the way UFO sightings are perceived and reported. Eyewitness accounts also provide a window into the broader societal impact of UFO sightings. In the 1950s and 1960s, the phenomenon became deeply intertwined with the cultural fabric of the time. The Cold War, the space race, and the rise of the science fiction genre all influenced how UFOs were perceived by the public. While some individuals saw the objects in the sky as potential threats from foreign powers, others viewed them as visitors from other worlds, sent to explore or communicate with humanity. The range of interpretations reflects not only the mystery of the sightings, but also the fears, hopes, and aspirations of the era. UFO sightings became a mirror for the anxieties of the time, with the unknown in the sky reflecting the unknown in geopolitics, science, and even human consciousness. Some of the most credible and striking eyewitness accounts come from military personnel, whose training and experience lend weight to their reports. One notable example is the 1967 sighting at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Several airmen reported seeing a glowing red UFO hovering near a missile silo. The object was said to have caused a temporary malfunction in the base's missile systems, a claim that was corroborated by other personnel. This case, along with others involving military personnel, suggests that some UFO sightings may have had implications for national security, which is one of the reasons why these encounters were often kept secret or downplayed by the government. Despite the wealth of eyewitness testimony, many of these accounts remain shrouded in mystery. In some cases, the individuals involved have been subjected to harsh scrutiny or ridicule, making it difficult for them to share their experiences without facing social or professional consequences. In other cases, the lack of hard evidence, such as physical remains or clear photographs, has led skeptics to dismiss the accounts as mere misperceptions or fabrications. Yet, the sheer volume of similar reports from individuals across the world from different walks of life presents a challenge to the official narrative that UFO sightings can be easily explained away. Eyewitnesses often express a deep sense of confusion and frustration in the wake of their experiences. For many, the question is not just what did I see, but why is no one else acknowledging it? The stigma attached to UFO sightings has led many to suppress their experiences or to remain silent altogether. Others, however, feel compelled to share their stories, hoping that the truth will eventually be recognized. These individuals form the backbone of the UFO movement, pushing for greater government transparency and a deeper understanding of what is happening in the skies. Ultimately, the stories of UFO witnesses are more than just curious anecdotes or sensational tales. They represent a profound and often unsettling confrontation with the unknown, one that forces individuals to question their perceptions of reality. Whether or not their accounts are accepted by the broader society, these eyewitnesses offer a glimpse into a phenomenon that continues to defy explanation. And as more people come forward with their stories, the mystery of UFOs only grows deeper, with each account adding a new layer to the enigma that has captivated humanity for so long. The history of UFO investigations is one that has been heavily shaped by government responses, which have varied from outright denial to careful orchestration of information. For decades, UFO sightings and encounters were met with a combination of skepticism, ridicule, and outright suppression. The U.S. government, in particular, went to great lengths to control the narrative surrounding UFOs, largely due to national security concerns, fear of public panic, and the desire to maintain power over information that could be perceived as a threat to both military dominance and public order. This strategy of obfuscation, dismissal, and secrecy created an atmosphere of distrust, where the line between truth and cover-up became increasingly blurred. The initial government response to UFOs can be traced back to the late 1940s, when reports of strange objects in the sky became more frequent. Following the 1947 Roswell incident, where an unidentified object reportedly crashed near Roswell, New Mexico, the military issued a public statement that suggested the object was a flying disc. This initial disclosure was quickly retracted, with the military changing the narrative to say the object was a weather balloon. This quick reversal left many people questioning what had really happened and set the stage for future doubts surrounding official explanations of UFO phenomena. The contrast between the government's initial admission and later retraction ignited suspicions of a deliberate cover-up, setting a precedent for the way UFOs would be handled by government officials for years to come. The U.S. Air Force's Project Sign, which began in 1948, marked the first formal government attempt to investigate UFOs. The project's goal was to assess whether UFOs posed any potential national security threat. The results of Project Sign were troubling for the military. Some reports, particularly those from credible military personnel, indicated that UFOs appeared to possess technological capabilities far beyond anything known to the U.S. military. However, these findings were quickly buried, and Project Sign was succeeded by Project Grudge, which aimed to dismiss UFO sightings as mere misidentifications. The tone of these investigations, from initial curiosity to outright dismissal, reflects the government's desire to maintain control over the information related to UFOs and avoid causing public panic. One of the most significant turning points in the government's handling of UFOs came with the creation of Project Blue Book in 1952. Blue Book was the U.S. Air Force's official investigation into UFO sightings, and it became the longest-running and most publicized government initiative to study the phenomenon. While the project is often remembered for its rigorous investigation of thousands of UFO reports, it was also characterized by a general reluctance to acknowledge the phenomenon as anything other than mundane or unworthy of further exploration. Blue Book's primary goal was to investigate whether UFOs posed a threat to national security, and the majority of its reports were ultimately classified as either misidentifications or hoaxes. However, the public nature of Blue Book's investigations also meant that the media played a significant role in shaping how UFOs were perceived by the general public. During the 1950s and 1960s, the media's portrayal of UFOs played a critical role in shaping public opinion. Newspaper headlines, radio programs, and even early television shows began to feed into the growing interest in UFOs, but often in a way that reinforced the notion of UFOs as mysterious, otherworldly phenomena. At the same time, the media also played into the government's narrative by emphasizing that UFO sightings were often the result of mass hysteria, misidentified aircraft, or hoaxes. Despite the growing number of UFO reports and credible witnesses coming forward, the government and media combined efforts to minimize the significance of these reports, largely to maintain public confidence in the status quo and avoid causing widespread fear. The media's role in perpetuating the idea that UFO sightings were nothing more than wild tales or misidentifications became particularly evident during the 1960s. News outlets often ridiculed people who came forward with UFO sightings, dismissing their experiences as delusions or exaggerations. At the same time, stories of UFO sightings were sensationalized and often presented as bizarre or outlandish, further cementing the idea that those who believed in UFOs were part of a fringe movement. This media narrative helped to stigmatize those who had legitimate encounters, making it difficult for many to share their experiences for fear of being labeled as mentally unstable or gullible. The government's lack of transparency about the phenomenon fueled the media's portrayal of UFOs as a spectacle, rather than a serious matter of public interest. The media's role in shaping public perception of UFOs was also influenced by the broader context of the Cold War. During this period of intense geopolitical rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, any new technology or military capability could potentially shift the balance of power. As such, the idea of UFOs, which may have been thought to represent foreign advanced technology or espionage, became deeply entwined with national security concerns. The government was deeply concerned that any acknowledgement of UFOs as legitimate or extraterrestrial might cause panic, undermine public trust in military and governmental institutions, or even offer strategic advantage to the enemy. By downplaying the significance of UFO sightings, the government sought to prevent the populace from focusing too much on the phenomenon and potentially distracting from the very real threats posed by the Cold War arms race. In response to the growing media coverage of UFOs, the U.S. government increasingly turned to disinformation campaigns. It became a regular practice to release official statements asserting that UFO sightings could be easily explained by weather balloons, misidentifications, or hoaxes. In many cases, these explanations were patently insufficient, as they failed to account for the numerous reports from credible sources, including military personnel, pilots, and police officers, who reported seeing objects that could not be easily dismissed. The government's tactic of offering these quick, shallow explanations served to reinforce the skepticism around UFO sightings, while further alienating those who had experienced them firsthand. By the 1970s, public interest in UFOs remained high, despite the government's continued refusal to provide clear answers. The media continued to sensationalize the phenomenon, with films and TV shows like Close Encounters of a Third Kind and The X-Files capturing the public's imagination and pushing the idea that UFOs were a significant and unexplained phenomenon. However, government responses remained largely unchanged. While the U.S. government no longer completely denied the existence of UFOs, it continued to present them as curiosities that had little to no relevance to national security or the broader issues of scientific inquiry. This disconnect between public fascination and governmental indifference laid the groundwork for the development of a growing UFO subculture, which continued to press for answers and transparency. The turning point in this long-standing pattern of government secrecy came in 2017, when the New York Times published a bombshell report revealing the existence of the Pentagon's Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program (ATIP). This program, which had been operating secretly since 2007, was tasked with investigating UFO sightings, and the report included the release of several previously classified videos showing U.S. Navy pilots encountering objects that moved in ways that defied the laws of physics. This disclosure marked a dramatic shift in the government's approach to UFOs. While the Pentagon's acknowledgement of ATIP and the release of footage were groundbreaking, the government still maintained that there was no evidence to suggest the objects were of extraterrestrial origin. However, the revelation of ATIP and the accompanying footage raised new questions about why the government had kept such a significant program secret for so long. The release of these government documents and videos opened the door for renewed public interest in UFOs, forcing the government to take a more open approach to the phenomenon. However, despite the increasing transparency, the government's continued reluctance to fully acknowledge the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement leaves many questions unanswered. UFOs remain one of the most enigmatic and controversial subjects of our time, with the government's responses and the media's portrayal of the phenomenon still playing a significant role in shaping public perception. The government's treatment of UFOs has created a complicated relationship with the public. On one hand, official statements and documents have consistently downplayed the significance of the phenomenon, fostering an environment of skepticism and disbelief. On the other hand, the increasing number of credible sightings and the growing body of evidence have made it increasingly difficult for the government to maintain its stance of indifference. The continued lack of transparency, combined with the sensationalized portrayals in the media, has ensured that the mystery surrounding UFOs endures, keeping the public both intrigued and frustrated by the seemingly endless gap between the available evidence and the official narrative. While government investigations and eyewitness accounts dominate the mainstream UFO discourse, there exists a vast and often mysterious realm of alternative and paranormal theories that challenge conventional explanations. These theories, which range from the possibility of extraterrestrial visitation to more metaphysical and spiritual interpretations, have captivated a significant portion of the UFO community. While often considered fringe or speculative by the scientific community, these theories have continued to persist, in part due to their ability to explain the UFO phenomenon in ways that go beyond traditional government or military frameworks. For many, the allure of these theories lies in their potential to offer a deeper understanding of the unknown, suggesting that UFOs may not just be advanced technological craft, but manifestations of other dimensions, parallel universes, or even products of human consciousness itself. One of the most well-known and widely debated alternative theories surrounding UFOs is the notion that they are vehicles sent by extraterrestrial civilizations. While this idea remains central to much of mainstream UFO research, alternative theories challenge this narrative in various ways. One such idea is the theory of ancient astronauts, which suggests that extraterrestrials have been visiting Earth for thousands of years, influencing the development of human civilization. Proponents of this theory, such as Erich von Däniken in his famous book Chariots of the Gods, argue that ancient structures like the pyramids of Egypt or the stone circles of Stonehenge were built with the help of advanced alien knowledge or technology. According to this view, human history cannot be fully understood without considering the possibility that we were visited, and perhaps even guided, by extraterrestrial beings. While the ancient astronaut theory is controversial and not widely accepted by mainstream historians, it has gained a devoted following, with proponents pointing to the many unexplained mysteries in ancient cultures as evidence of alien intervention. This theory extends to the idea that extraterrestrial beings might be influencing human affairs in more subtle ways, guiding our progress through history. Some researchers argue that UFO sightings are merely the latest manifestation of a much older phenomenon, one that has been present throughout human history in various forms. These theories often incorporate elements of mythology, suggesting that gods, angels, or other supernatural beings depicted in ancient texts and religious stories might have been extraterrestrial visitors. The appeal of this theory is that it offers a way to reconcile the supernatural and the extraterrestrial, blending ancient wisdom with modern science in a way that challenges our understanding of both the past and the future. Another popular theory is that UFOs are not physical spacecraft at all, but are instead interdimensional beings or manifestations of consciousness from parallel universes. This theory suggests that UFOs are not necessarily from other planets, but from other dimensions, planes of existence, or parallel realities that exist alongside our own. According to proponents of this theory, these visitors are beings from other dimensions who can travel between worlds, using technologies that allow them to slip through the barriers between our universe and theirs. This idea draws heavily on concepts from quantum physics and string theory, suggesting that the universe we perceive is only one of many, with other dimensions or alternate realities potentially coexisting in parallel to ours. The interdimensional theory has gained traction in recent years, particularly in the context of UFO sightings that seem to defy conventional explanations. Many of these sightings involve objects that appear to blink in and out of existence, or move through physical space in ways that suggest they are not bound by the same laws of physics that govern our reality. Some researchers argue that these sightings could be evidence of beings or objects that exist in another dimension, but are temporarily slipping into our universe or our perception of reality. This theory suggests that UFOs might not be spaceships in the traditional sense, but rather craft that can phase in and out of our dimension, appearing briefly before vanishing again. This theory also ties into the idea that UFOs could be manifestations of human consciousness or collective mindsets. Some researchers suggest that UFO sightings may be a product of the human psyche, reflecting our anxieties, hopes, and fears about the unknown. According to this psychological theory, UFOs could be created by the collective unconscious, tapping into deeply held cultural beliefs about the possibility of alien life. In this view, UFOs are not physical objects at all, but psychological phenomena that manifest in our collective consciousness as a response to our existential questions about life beyond Earth. The idea that UFOs are projections of the human mind also dovetails with theories about paranormal phenomena, like ghosts and poltergeists. Some researchers argue that UFO sightings might be a modern-day manifestation of older supernatural experiences. In this context, UFOs are not simply visitors from another planet, but are part of a broader spectrum of paranormal events, which also includes reports of ghosts, cryptids, and other unexplainable phenomena. This theory posits that the phenomenon of UFOs may be part of a larger metaphysical reality, one that transcends the boundaries of space and time. Instead of looking outward for answers, proponents of this theory suggest that UFOs may be trying to communicate with humanity from a higher spiritual or metaphysical plane. One particularly interesting aspect of these alternative theories is the concept of UFOs as time travelers. This theory suggests that UFOs are not extraterrestrial visitors at all, but are instead beings from the future, using advanced technology to travel back in time to observe or even influence events in our past. This theory is rooted in the idea that time is not a linear progression, but a malleable dimension that can be navigated through advanced technology or consciousness. Supporters of this theory argue that the presence of UFOs throughout human history could be explained by the possibility that time travel is not only possible but actively happening, with future humans visiting our time for reasons unknown. This theory has gained popularity in some circles, particularly among those who believe that UFO sightings are not random, but seem to occur at key moments in history, suggesting that they might be tied to specific events or changes in the human timeline. A variant of this time travel theory involves the idea that UFOs are not just time travelers from our future, but from alternate versions of Earth, parallel universes, or alternate timelines. According to this hypothesis, the UFOs we see are not from another galaxy or star system, but are from a parallel Earth where events unfolded differently. This theory suggests that these visitors are not extraterrestrials, but humans or humanoid beings from an alternate timeline who have developed advanced technologies and discovered ways to travel between parallel worlds. This concept borrows heavily from the multiverse theory in physics, which suggests that our universe is just one of many in a vast and complex network of realities. Another alternative theory that has captured the imagination of UFO researchers is the idea that UFOs might be connected to the spiritual realm. This theory posits that UFOs are not physical craft, but are manifestations of spiritual beings or consciousness from higher dimensions. In this view, UFOs are part of a cosmic order that transcends the material universe, and their sightings represent an invitation to understand the deeper, spiritual truths of existence. Proponents of this theory often point to the close connection between UFO sightings and other paranormal phenomena, such as abductions, telepathic communication, and heightened states of consciousness. These connections, they argue, suggest that UFOs are not just physical objects, but are part of a larger spiritual awakening process that humanity is undergoing. The fringe theories surrounding UFOs are often dismissed by mainstream science and government institutions, which prefer to attribute UFO sightings to more conventional explanations, such as misidentified aircraft, weather phenomena, or even military experimentation. However, the continued persistence of these alternative theories speaks to the profound mystery that UFOs represent, a mystery that challenges our understanding of the universe, consciousness, and the nature of reality itself. While many of these theories may never be proven, they continue to provoke thought, inspire curiosity, and push the boundaries of human knowledge, offering a vision of the unknown that is as vast and varied as the stars themselves. The UFO phenomenon has permeated every corner of modern culture, leaving a profound mark on the collective imagination. What began as a fringe mystery in the mid-20th century has evolved into a powerful symbol with far-reaching implications. UFOs and aliens have become a staple of popular culture, inspiring countless works of fiction, sparking public debates, and even influencing global politics. From the rise of science fiction films and television shows to their place in the public consciousness as symbols of both fear and fascination, UFOs have shaped how society thinks about the unknown and the future of humanity. The cultural impact of UFOs can be traced back to the late 1940s and early 1950s when the first wave of modern sightings caught the attention of the American public. Following the Roswell incident of 1947, UFOs became a topic of intense speculation, media coverage, and public debate. This early wave of UFO sightings coincided with a moment in history when the world was still reeling from the aftermath of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. Amidst fears of nuclear annihilation and the possibility of World War III, UFOs represented an unknown threat, but they also represented the possibility of hope or knowledge from beyond our planet. The ambiguity of the phenomenon fueled widespread interest and led to a rapid rise in the number of UFO-related films, books, and radio programs. The rise of the UFO in popular culture can be seen as part of a larger post-war fascination with space and technology. During the 1950s, as the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union heated up, the idea of life beyond Earth seemed more plausible to the public. The notion of extraterrestrial life, which had previously been relegated to the realm of science fiction, began to take on a more realistic and intriguing tone. UFOs came to symbolize the unknown frontiers of space, and the question of whether we were alone in the universe became a central theme in both science fiction and the public imagination. One of the earliest and most influential ways UFOs entered the cultural zeitgeist was through Hollywood films.